as a community, we look at the word trauma as one of those uh, hush hush words.
Coming fall 2023.
It's a stigma around that word. Like nobody wants to be labeled or be classified under that.
Angela Marie Publishing proudly presents.
If you look at it, trauma is merely just being exposed or voluntarily or involuntarily to a situation that changes your outlook.
Sit in Your Shit, a 30-day guided journal for processing a crisis.
You have become accustomed and immune to your own shit.
Written by Miss Devin Elise, certified life coach and founder of Lifted KC.
Because mental health doesn't care where you are, what you're doing, who you are. It's going to kick in when it want to kick in.
Fall 2023. Sit in Your Shit.
When it finds its place to trigger you, boom, you're triggered. If you don't deal with the trauma, you're going to constantly be triggered.
The highly anticipated guided journal from Kansas City's own Devin Elise.
And one of the things that I'm learning in my associates with this healing is to be aware and to sit in my shit.
For more information, visit AngelaMariePublishing.com.
When I feel something, I sit there and figure it out. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling? Because when I can identify it, the next go round, I can prevent it before it comes.
Sit in Your Shit. Pre-orders available now.
Get down on the slow.
The blacked out couch.
What's going on? What's going on, my peoples? I see Miss Devin just hopped on the mic. What's going on with you, Wig?
Hey, no, chill like a villain, relaxing.
Yeah, man. Boy, I've been all over the place.
You still,
What's going on, brother Marcus? I don't know if you can hear us or if you're in a position where you can talk, but appreciate you for joining. I see brother Rothel down there. What's going on, bro? You can join the mic, join the stage, man. We about to kick this conversation off.
All right, Brother Henderson, how are we doing there?
Hey, what's going on with you, brother Marcus?
All righty, doing good. Doing
Yeah.
hey, Marcus the pastor.
good. What's up, fam? How we doing
Brother
there?
Pat.
Hey, how you doing, Pat?
Hey, life is good. Thanks for asking. How are you doing there, bro?
Man, another day in paradise.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Listen, man, I appreciate everybody for joining. It's about 6 o'clock, man. So we gonna kick this thing off. Everybody, welcome to join. Welcome to Unpacking for episode 7 of the Blacked Out Couch podcast. Our last episode, last Thursday, we touched on the brothers panel touched on how do our boys become men. So it was a real interesting dialogue, really good conversation. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, I think it is in the pinned link. But you can follow us on YouTube and Spotify and all of your podcast platforms. Um, how's everybody doing tonight?
Man, I'm ready. I know it's probably gonna be a nice conversation tonight, so I'm ready.
Yeah. All right. All right. Did you check out the episode? Probably not.
Man, nah, and you're not lie to you.
Yeah, it's all good, man. So listen, man, the episode was pretty cool, man. It was actually an extension. I believe it's sort of an extended conversation from the episode that we had prior to that on broken homes and generational curses. So, I want to kick off tonight, man, with kind of a theme that we brought up in this last episode. One of the first questions that we asked, we were actually, it was a conversation amongst man. So I asked the brothers to talk about some failures, either personal or common failures as a black man that they might want to see done differently with the next generation. One of the brothers, and I wanted to make sure that I brought this up tonight on Unpacking. So one of the brothers answered that question, and I'll pose that question to the room as well. But I did want to kick it off with the icebreaker of what happened in the episode. One of the brothers answered that question, and he said use of the N word, the word nigga. So I'll step back, get some feedback, commentary if y'all want to comment on that, or if you got another talking point that you want to bring up in regards to that question, go right ahead. But my brother brought up the N word and the use of it in our community, so I did want to see what anybody thought about that.
Man, I'm gonna take it on in on the first go on this one. I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't stop saying the word. Uh, I think you know I mean it ain't like the B word or the P word or MF and all that. It's not one of those situations where what I mean. It's a racial thing amongst the black community. You know what I mean? It's not a racial thing. It is just something that we grew up. Now, as black men and grown men, black men, now that we have, I guess you could say, an education more, an understanding more, it's still, considered of an in term of endearment. You know, like right now, I'm considered a Christian. You see what I'm saying? But they were first called Christians in Antioch, which is a derogatory term. So Peter told us in the Bible to not be shamed to be called Christian. You know what I mean? So it is something that may have started out as a negative thing, but it's a term of endearment. And you really, I mean, can you really stamp that out? I don't think so.
Well, we appreciate that, Mr. Wig, for that commentary. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Because this is the brothers edition. First off, hey everybody, this is Devin. I wanted to let a man answer that first. So, but I want to compliment the last speaker because those are my thoughts exactly. I listened to the episode with the brothers Thursday last Thursday, and I disagree wholeheartedly just because I feel like there were a lot of things meant to break us back then, and I think that word is one of the ways that we culturize ourselves. I think, of course, just like any other word, we can use it in a derogatory manner, but for the most part it is a sense of endearment. It is like how we greet one another, based on understanding of where we come from, where we're going, where we've been, all of that. So when he said it, I was like, I might have to disagree because when I hear it, I don't hear negativity. I mean, of course, tone and everything plays a part, but for the most part, the people that I'm surrounded around, it's love, it's family. So when it's said, it's just like another word in our vocabulary. So it's something unique for us. So I agree with the last speaker.
Right on. Right on. Appreciate that, Miss Devin. How you doing tonight?
I am good. You have an echo too, but I'm good. I am excited for everything coming, and yeah.
Right on. Let me see if I can fix my echo. Did anybody else want to chime in on that? The N word, the use of the N word in our community. See, Brother Bert just joined us.
So I would like to. Hello, everyone. This is Marcus Freeman. Um, it's kind of like one of the, I guess, taking the authority out, the power out of what was meant for negative, or whatever. Just kind of flipping it, if you will. And we see that happen all of the time. The more that something is used, it kind of take away from the intended purpose of it. Uh, and hopefully this makes sense. But kind of like when you have terms like Black Lives Matter, now you see everything else that has such and such matters and such matter, all life matter, and all of this. Well, the use of those that catchphrase, if you will, for lack of better words, when you have it used a lot more often now, it kind of like usurps the authority or the power provided on that or that intentional use of that word. And I hope that makes sense. And I think that's what's happened now with that particular word. Also with the female dog, the term that used to be used as a negative. Now you have women, females that are using that term to describe themselves. And so it's kind of like, although it may have been intentionally used as derogatory, they've taken that power away from it, if that makes sense, and kind of just switch.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Did anybody else want to chime in? We talking about the use of the word nigga in our community that was brought up during our episode 7. And just to give a recap for the brothers, the people that just joined the room, we were talking about some of the failures, either common or personal, as a black man that we might want to see differently in the next generation. And somebody brought up use of the N word. So if anybody else want to chime in on that and how they feel about that. Miss Tanisha says she ain't got no comment because she got kids. Okay, well, listen, if nobody else will chime in, I'll go ahead and give my 2 cents. Um, I do agree with every one of the commenters so far. It was a derogatory word. It's something that our culture has sort of taken the power and the control back as a term of endearment. The same thing with the use of the B word, like Brother Marcus mentioned. I do agree with that. One of the angles that I will ask for feedback on is sort of how it's been gentrified, for a lack of a better way of putting it, where, we have taken these words as terms of endearment, and now it's being overused, outside of our community in a lot of different spaces, in the entertainment world, some of the other cultures, because of the popularity of our culture, they use the word as well. So, one of, the brother that brought that up, he actually brought up that angle. So and the brother that brought that up is actually in the room. So I'm glad he joined us tonight because I told him I was going to come back to this subject. So, brother JB, if you do have time to speak with us, we talking about the use of the N word, and most of the commentary has been, it's a term of endearment. It's something that we've kind of taken back. So, I'll let you chime in on your stance on that. But I was trying to kind of give the room a little bit of your stance on how it's been kind of gentrified and taken away from us.
My bad. Had to find a mute button. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good, hanging in there, brother.
Hold up. Let me rephrase that. How you house niggas doing tonight? How you feel niggas doing tonight? Feel niggas, we good? It's kind of hot out there, but we gonna make it.
Yeah, my nigga, we good.
All right. So I just clicked in when you were saying that. I already knew what you was talking about. So what you want me to speak of?
So most of the commentary has been, we can't see ourselves take, you that word being taken away from us because of the way it's been used as a term of endearment. And so I was actually bringing up the angle of how it's been gentrified. It's actually been, used outside of our community because of the popularity of it between us. And so I wanted to kind of get everybody's feedback on that angle.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely gentrified. Like that's the cool turn of that's the cool turn to be now. But we had issues with people that use it that ain't live where we live. But they so comfortable using it because we so comfortable using it.
I just have a question because from that perspective, a lot of things from our culture are being replicated, gentrified, whichever word you guys choose to use. So do we stop wearing locks? Do we stop doing rap? Do we stop doing the things that they mimic from our culture because we have no control over what they do? But I find it almost what's the word I'm looking for, honored maybe, that they think enough of us even though they display that they don't. Them replicating the things that we do in our culture shows that there's an interest in what we do, which is why they replicate it. So if we say stop using the word nigga because they use the word nigga, then that means stop wearing locks because now they're wearing locks. Women need to stop wearing braids because other cultures are starting to wear cornrows, as they would call them. So, I mean, we can't stop what people are doing because they idolize us.
Okay. So Devin, you said a couple of things. I'm gonna take the one where you said, you see they're using it, they're emulating us, but they don't. I can't remember exactly what you said, but basically they'll use that word, right? Because they see us use it. So, no, should we stop using it because they doing it? Well, let's talk about dreads. Dreads that doesn't hurt anybody. Although when I see a white person with dreads, I look at them sideways. Um, but I don't see dreads hurting anybody. I don't see dreads holding anybody back. I don't see dreads as a defamation. That word, that nigga, it can so be used in so many different ways, and it could get us hot, get under our collar if the wrong person uses it in our presence. Now, cultural appropriation just happens because we're popular. But once again, let's look at the culture that's been appropriated. Let's look at the culture that's being propagated. Black Death. I talked about that. Nigga is monetized, and it's not like we use it, but it's not monetized by us. Us rapping about killing somebody isn't monetized by us, although we talk about it all the time. We're not the ones controlling that. So, and I don't know how deep Holly got into why I chose not to use that word anymore, but it's deep for me. It's real deep.
Do you mind sharing it with us? I didn't get into that with your personal beliefs on it.
So, y'all might hear me talk about this all the time because it's so prevalent to me. But it started back when it started with my kids, and just being a leader in my household. And this is something my wife, she really taught me and helped me to it. And it's like I said, it's simple to say, but it's not so easy to do. And it's simply, you know, lead by example. So it's not, hey, do as I say, do as I do. Follow my footsteps because I'm doing it the right way. So you'll see a lot of parents get mad at their kids because they babies is cussing. Well, you're cussing in front of them, so they gonna follow what you do. Like drugs, smoking, anything. Like, hey, you saw your parents do it, so you probably gonna try it because you saw it there first. Now, of course, there are rules to every. or exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, you think about it. So that's where it started with me, with my kids. I wanted to be a leader for them, a proven leader. So I started changing some things about myself. So that's what started that path.
So it's like a curse word for you in your household.
Absolutely.
Got you. Got you. Anybody else wanna chime in
Hey,
on that?
I just want to know. Let me see how many people we got on here. And for whoever don't agree with me, you will be referred to as house nigga or field nigga when I see you. So don't get mad, because that's what the fuck it means.
Anybody else want to chime in on that? I think brother JB, did you drop the mic in the room?
I don't see how it's possible. I guess so much. I get so much. I get so much feedback. People flashing on me when I bring this up. It's got to be somebody saying something.
Me personally, that's a personal preference and how you feel.
Wait, is that Donald
I'm
Wiggins? My house nigga. What's up?
a house hit. I'm a house nigga up in the mug. I'm, I'm just I'm just keeping it real. You know what I mean? Like it now. Me personally, I've been trying to cut down just on bad language. Period. When it comes to my own personal vocabulary, but the thing is this is uh Roddy my nigga since knee high to a grasshopper. You see what I'm saying? So man, I just got smoked, man, talking to y'all. Anyway, with a sludge hammer too, boy, that hurt. Uh, but he is my brother. You see what I'm saying? Now, one of the overused terms that I disagree with is this word kings. Everybody ain't kings. Somebody got to do the dirty work. You see what I'm saying? Somebody
Hold
Oh,
on.
oh,
So
whoa,
you
whoa.
okay with
finish.
the term nigga being used, but you disagree with the term
Let me
king?
finish. Let me
Oh, my
finish.
bad, my bad. I'm gonna shut up. My bad.
The point of the matter is I'm not a king. I'm not a nigga. My name is Donald. But if someone says, "Hey, what's up, King?" I'ma say, "What's up?" If somebody say, "Hey, what's up, my nigga?" I'ma say, "What's up?" I'm not gonna look at the difference of the term to feel like one is more derogatory than the other when both of them is terms of endearment.
Yep, because we've been taught that hating ourselves is the best love.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm sorry, brother. I never grew up learning to hate myself. Never.
I think it was subconsciously, man. It was kind of
Yeah,
subconsciously
it's
put in
definitely
us, man.
subconscious.
Like,
Yeah,
you
Yeah,
yeah.
know,
but
It's
that's
programmed into the
group
society,
thing.
bro.
You talking group think. I'm an individual. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
but Donald, but D, you know,
Eighty
we
percent of there's 80% damn near of black men in prison. How many of us trying to go there? None of us. So it's not a group think.
Yeah, I get that, wig, but just man, going back to like you said, bro, we've been cool since knee high, man. Just going back to us back in high school, man. Just our culture in general, man. The urban culture, man. Like a nigga mugging you, a nigga bump into you, step on your shoes the wrong way, like bro, you be ready to take a nigga head off, bro. Like that's what I think JB is speaking upon, like, and we all come from that, bro. Like we matured, we made it out of that, and we can sit and reflect on those things now. We all have grown and matured, but we all woke up at some point, bro, from that programming. I think is what JB is speaking to.
Still needing to be woke up from the programming.
Peace, y'all. How y'all living?
What's going on with you, Irv?
I can't complain. I think that when it comes to the word nigga, it's one of those things where I'm one of those people that believe in like elevated speech. Like we gonna talk on a level that we want to live and maintain that. And I'm big on peace king, peace God, all that. And at first, I know it makes certain people feel funny, but that funniness they feel, I encourage it because I want them to feel funny and figure out why they feel funny about it. Because you shouldn't feel funny. We're all God in physical form. We're all an extension of the source energy. So, it's a certain level of acknowledgement of God when I speak to you on a higher frequency than my nigga, 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 nigga. And, coming from where I'm from, of course, like, yeah, I get it. But at the same time, um, it's odd to me that black men get uncomfortable with being called king, but they don't get uncomfortable with being called nigga. And although both are terms of endearment, one is factually a higher vibrating word than the other. One's not rooted in oppression at all. One is rooted in being uplifted in love. God is love. So, um, I know it's awkward for some people, but again,
I
I
bring
don't
it
think
to you.
people,
I bring it.
yeah, I don't think people will ever, not ever, but I don't think people, because of how we're conditioned, I don't think people realize internalized self hatred because the word self hatred sound like you look at yourself in the mirror and just like, man, I don't fuck with you, but it's a subconscious thing. It's the same reason why a lot of times if you watch a black man walk down the street and talk to a white man or greet a white man, he nod his head down. You walk past a black man, he buck his head up in opposition, in challenge and confrontation. We don't think of it that way, but just pay attention to how the average black person greets a white man versus a black man. And all that shit is like, it's hardwired. And until we consciously make an effort that whenever I see this black man, I'm going to address him in this particular way, then, I think it'll keep going on the radar. But I think it's important that we, and I'm not on no crusade against the word nigga. I understand it completely. I use it. I try to stop using it because I would rather greet my friends and my brothers as, brother, king. Um, Anything besides nigga, he can call nigga 100 million different ways. When it comes from me though, I want it to be something that carry more weight than just calling him a nigga.
For sure. For sure. I can respect that.
So
Anybody else want to chime
let
in?
me ask y'all a question.
Go ahead, brother.
What's the problem then? Like as far as the racial connotation, as I spoke earlier before, it's a term of endearment in the black community. So, what makes it such a bad thing to the point to where we want to take off the head of a white man or someone that's not black?
What do you mean take
Well,
off the head? What do you mean by that?
If it don't matter if you put the hard er or the a. If a white boy say something like that, what you think is gonna happen?
it's
Yeah, we're
it's
gonna
what
be
Herb
offended.
said. That word is rooted in oppression.
It's rooted
So
in oppression. That's the whole point. Yeah,
No,
so
there's
that's
the
the
no
R
key.
R nigger is a word that's rooted in oppression. Nigga
correct.
is not.
What is the root?
Oh, it
Where is the
is.
origin
It
of the
is.
word nigga with the A? The origin of the word nigga with an A
If
comes from
you
where?
know, niggas is actually spelled Negus.
Yeah, but that's not why we say it. We
That's
learned
a
that
different country, a different language.
we
That's
learned
Right.
that
Ethiopian.
recently.
But through Ethiopia, I know Haile Selassie, but that's the point I'm getting at. That's where it came from. That's the origin of it. It didn't come from the ER.
No, the way we use it as Black Americans came from nigger.
Exactly.
We
That
learned about the Ethiopian etymology of it, and we use it
Oh,
now to justify us saying it. But the fact is, it came from Spanish conquistadors, negro, and they called it nigger, and we been using it as nigga. We recently found out that that word in through etymology, but that's not where the word nigga in Black American culture came from.
and how
right.
can you identify that's where it came from as far as Black American culture? Because there were other brothers that actually had the smarts to know about this information. Every black man wasn't ignorant.
So,
You might be right. You might be right.
so I,
Me personally, though, I don't know nobody that was ever using it based on that. I know people that was using it and then found out that fact. Me personally, I can only speak personal information. My entire life, I use nigga in an American context, and I heard Kendrick do the etymology on rap.
Yeah.
I said, damn, that's a cool little fact there. Okay,
Hmm.
it adds more empowerment to it, but nonetheless, it doesn't change the fact that the way we've been using it is rooted in an oppressive word.
So let me chime in real quick. I agree with both sides. I agree that our origins of the use, because we may not have known to go back even further with the origins, right? I think that both of y'all are saying something that's true. I think that our origin of the use of it dates back to a certain event in history, and there may be deeper origins of the word overall where it derives from that goes back even further than where we began using it at a point in time in history. So I think that both of y'all are saying two things that can be true at the same time.
I think about the
Can,
term hostility is what comes up to me.
I
Like,
agree.
like
And the point that he's making, he is making some very, very, very valid points.
no,
You know what I mean?
I think JB got a point. I mean, but I also think about the idea of like what language means. Like when I think about what I name my daughter, my oldest daughter in particular, names matter. Like if I named my daughter Maya because I wanted to name her after someone who made a huge impact on me when I was just a college kid going to see her live, Maya Angelou. And I was like, I knew immediately when I saw her, I want to name my daughter after her. Now, when my cousins, when I go back to my old hood and they call me like this little nigga over here used to do X, Y, and Z, I recognize the intent and where they're coming from with that. So I don't react the same way. But do I necessarily use language like speaking back to them? No, not necessarily. Like like I don't mind hearing that because I grew up hearing it, but I don't refer to myself as such because I'm like, I'd rather not. I'd rather not because I know the history. I can't undo what I heard in hearing about medical apartheid. I can't undo what I heard when I hear about like all the other horrific things we experienced during that time frame, and I can't separate those two things. But at the same time, if I know I'm back at home amongst my people, I'm like, look, I know what type of time they on. I'm not gonna kick back here and kick semantics in that situation if I recognize the intent behind what they're saying, which is why if I heard a white person say it with an A or ER, I'm crashing them immediately. Like it's just like they know what they meant. They know the history of that word. They know what they can and can't get away with. So I think I think from JB's standpoint, I hear where he's coming from because that's it's okay to not be able to say like I don't want to hear that direct toward me or I don't want to direct toward my kids or whomever because that feels uncomfortable to me. And also, I can see how somebody can we can take we have a history as a people of reclaiming things that were not meant for human consumption and then alchemizing them into something beautiful. So that's what. So I see both the beauty and the ugliness behind it at the same time, and it doesn't bother me. Like, but it's so in that situation, I think about the idea of trauma repetition. Is it trauma repetition? Meaning, are we repeating the trauma amongst our own people, horizontal hostility, by using that word? I think it's up for debate. I think it depends on the intent, which is
I'm gonna
why
say yes.
if I can see or hear like if Holly comes to greet me when he's in town and says, "Oh, my nigga Bert, how you doing, brother Bert, how you doing?" Whichever way he greets me, I'm like, I know that's with intent because I know he's coming to me with love. But if there's a scenario where I feel like there's some. I have to the roller coaster. I will in a second, okay? That's my daughter in the background, y'all. Like, so when I talk about this idea of like intent and the words we use, I do think they do have power. I just think you have to recognize who you're speaking to and what intent they're coming by, which is why a lot of the times the word is used in trap music. I hate the way it sounds there because you're talking about killing. You're talking about killing somebody that looks like me. I don't like that because as what's homie's name? He wrote a book called Monster back in like '03, '04, and he was a Crip who eventually converted his life when he went to prison. And
Tookie.
huh? You said what?
That was Tookie, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't too.
No,
It
I think
wasn't.
this was OG Cody. I think you talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, 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 yeah. So in that book, he was talking about the idea of like he was talking about what they used to say to each other when they would go out on their ride or die missions. And he said a quote that stuck with me even from back when I read it. He said, "It's easy to ride on some niggas. It's harder to go out and ride on somebody you consider a brother."
Mm-hmm.
Think about the idea, and this is where I really do agree with JB. Like, it's a dehumanizing term if it's used in this particular context. Like, you're telling somebody you are less than me. You are. What did you say in the chat? You said it was like the the worm of the dirt or something like that. Some disgusting putrid term, something along those lines. Like that idea of like that we are less than nothing. And I think that is part of it. If we look at like how our culture, not our culture, but like particularly like some of our music talks about like killing somebody else, which is why that piece I don't have as strong as a reaction to like the word nigga, but I do have a strong reaction to somebody talking about like rap, especially white folks who love trap music. I give them a side eye immediately because I'm like, why do you like the music to talk about us dying? Like, what's the appeal? So that's my stance on it. It might be a bit more halfway between where JB sits and where everybody else sits, but I don't
That's
know.
cool.
I think
Bert,
there's
you said two things.
what's that?
My bad, my bad. You said
No,
two
no, you
things.
good. You good.
One where you talked about how we have a tradition of turning things that aren't supposed to be consumed by us into
Yes,
something beautiful.
yes.
Well, now we got a whole history of hypertension amongst our people because of that.
No, that's true. No, you
So
got.
same with nigga. So it, it's at this point it's endemic. It's like it ain't going nowhere. It's just instilled within us.
Mhm.
Uh, I can't remember the other point, so I'll just shut up.
No. I think you got a
The
point because there's something, but there is something to be said about what if y'all read the book My Grandmother's Hands. It's by another fellow trauma therapist now turned major book deal kind of guy, Resma Menachem, who said trauma decontextualized in the community becomes culture. So if you have a scenario where some awful happens and over time we start adapting to it, which is what our people did, we adapt to all this stuff and try to survive this stuff, then it becomes culture because you don't have to traumatize an entire generation. You just say, oh, that's how we survive. So
mm,
I
I
see I
think
see
some.
that. What's up?
Well, I wanted something that you said that stuck out to me, Bert.
Yeah,
You said context and intent.
yes.
So with context and intent, if your let's say your woman is really upset with you because she found, some girl was calling you. What
Yeah.
she say, nigga? Let's say somebody step on your shoe, bitch
Mm-hmm.
ass nigga.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you ever hear somebody in those types of energies calling you God?
Mm.
Never.
That's a good
So
point.
it speaks to the venom that comes with that word. No matter how much we try to shine it up and make it nice and new, there's still an opportunity for it to turn into that
I like.
energy.
Now I like that.
So that's for me. For me, I personally take more. I don't take issue with people using the word. I take
Mm-hmm.
issue with people being having an aversion to a better word than that, and that's because we are better than that. We're better than a word that could be turned into some negative shit in 2023. It's not just that it's rooted from slavery. It's in this day and age. If a black man from across the street said, "Hey, nigga," that
Mm-hmm.
energy just feel crazy. So
Yeah.
it's like that
Okay.
says a lot about the word itself. But I also understand, what I'm saying, like it can be used in love, but I know there's other terms that can't be used in a negative manner. And it seems like black people tend to have aversions to those words. Like, yes, every woman is not a queen. There are some complete whores out here that get called queen. There are niggas out here who are terrible men, barely men, and we call them
Right.
king. But I would rather
Exactly.
we do that than call everybody nigga and everybody be cool with nigga. If I call you king, that might plant a seed in your mind somewhere that maybe you could live up to be better and make it more of a fitting title when people call you that. Versus if all you ever hear is nigga, 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 nigga. But
Mm-hmm.
I heard that whenever you spoke on context and intent.
Mm. I hear you. You drive a good point. You drive a good point in that situation.
I want to hop in really quickly too because I grew up with my grandma actually raised me for a good portion of my life before my mom and my dad. And we, like, no one in my family says that word. My husband can attest to this. He's been to countless family gatherings for the last 12 years. The men don't, the women don't, nobody says this word. My grandma does not allow it. She did not allow it in her presence. So I picked it up when I was in school, and it's kind of just a cool thing to say. I'm also half Nigerian, and I never hear any Nigerians saying it ever at all. So for me, I kind of just considered it as part of the culture. But then when I got older, and this actually happened pretty recently, probably within the last year or so, I started noticing how I never really hear it used for women, especially like if women, if a woman is being disrespected or someone's trying to call a woman out of her name, they don't use the N word. It's typically used when addressing men. And that started bothering me because I do feel like out of everybody in the world, the black man in this, at least in this country, the black man is held back the most. So why is it that the term that was the most derogative historically is still being used today in a common manner for men? But like my husband, I literally have never heard him refer to a woman that way, whether it's positive or negative. So for me, when I don't know, when I had that realization, I was like, okay, I'm not with this word at all ever because it's really hard to take a word that's negative and try to create a movement to where it's positive. And if you really think about profanity, curse words, ain't nobody out here trying to change the F bomb into something popular, into something that's positive. So I think that I'm more of the camp that that word is just damaging. Even though we try to turn it into something positive, it's so embedded in us that we might not know what it's really doing to us subconsciously. Because we as a people do carry a lot of subconscious trauma that we try to put a badge on as strength when no, it's just trauma. It's just trauma.
Okay, let me chime in before anybody else gives any feedback. Princess, how you doing, honey? I did want to play devil's advocate to one of the points that you made. You said you brought up your Nigerian roots, and you said you don't hear Nigerians using that ever. And that was the case when I was around your family gatherings until I discovered Nigerian hip hop, because them niggas is using the N word like they grew up on the same block I did. So I did want to just point that out, just to throw some humor into that. But I can't really argue with anything else you said. Did anybody else want to chime in on that? Use of the N word in our culture. Is it something that we should be getting rid of for the next generation?
I just know as a person that understands the need to change and improve, it's always hard to take that first step. So even acknowledging the fact that maybe I shouldn't use that word, it can be hard. So I'll leave that there.
I think we should though. We should abandon it because we can't really control who can say it though. Because now you got white kids, Asian kids saying it. So can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can
Absolutely.
hear you, brother.
And so this is Marcus again. I've been just kind of sitting back and digesting what has been said. Part of the problem is we have free will, knowledge, and understanding. Knowledge is just, man, we can all grow up in the same household, same community, and we're still gonna know different things about one particular thing. And so knowledge, although one person may get it, the understanding may not be there for another. But at the end of the day, we got a free will in what we want to do. And so some are going to want to use it, some will not. Uh, but as long as we're all on different pages and we have that free will, we're going to always be having this discussion, I
I would like to chime in and say one thing with being a mother of four boys. Um, and I grew up in the South, and that was just a normal word that we use. And it did not dawn on me that that word that I had to be careful of how it was used in the house, or if I was using it, because I don't use it to like get at my boys or anything like that. But if we're sitting around laughing, talking, watching something, I might hear my boys joking with each other using the word, or, just kind of used freely. Never thought anything about it because it was just a condition I was used to hearing until One day, all of us we were out, and now my boys are from the ages of 18 to 28, and they was just having a general talking, laughing conversation. We were out in public. It was most definitely a diverse group. It was, Caucasians, all kind of people. And my youngest boy, which is 18, was talking to his brother that was 24, and they were laughing, and they were kind of, talking a little loud. It wasn't low, and my baby boy said, nigga, nigga, please. And it was something that they were laughing at. And immediately, because I wasn't at home and I was in a different environment, it kind of made me look like, what? And I'm like, dude, don't say that. And at that point, it made me realize, well, it was common for me to hear it when I was in the house, but when I got out in public and I was around other people, why did it make me feel that way? So immediately I realized, okay, that should not be a common word, or it's comfortable in one place, but when I'm in another place, it's uncomfortable, but it's the same word. It was used in the same content. They was joking, they was laughing, but it made me very uncomfortable to hear him say that in the public. And so at that point was when I started to, kind of check myself on how I used it, addressing them like, what, we really should get away from addressing each other like that. And so I just wanted to say that if and that's why I wish we could get away from it, because it does, kind of makes my skin crawl to hear it in certain situations versus being at home. But how can you control? If you use it one place, you use it somewhere else, it should be the same feeling. So I really think it's something that shouldn't be used if possible, but like someone said earlier, it's just kind of, it's hardwired in us. But my new philosophy is if you can't say it here, or you feel uncomfortable saying here, you don't want to say it in church, if you're going to use it, you should be comfortable using it wherever, and it's uncomfortable for me wherever. So that's what made me realize that that's something I had to work on with myself and with my family, because it wasn't a good feeling to hear my boys say that out in public with white people and other people around.
Absolutely. I can definitely attest to that. Going back to kind of the theme of where the question was centered around, was really just kind of speaking about the next generation, right? I think from what I'm gathering, I think that we all can agree that it's a very complex situation. There's a lot of complexities to it, and for that reason alone, it probably is something that we should try to get away from for the next generation, because something as complex as the use of this type of language, it takes an adult themed mind to even be able to understand things like context, all of the complexities that are surrounding this word and its origin and its history. So while I am in that group of people that will admit that I'm probably never going to stop using the word, I also see where everyone is coming from in terms of the uncomfortable nature of the word, and I think that kind of speaks to why I get into certain my growth has put me in situations where now that I'm older, I say the word less. There are times where I'm conscious of where I'm saying it, like to Janine's point. My wife has had to check me because we've been out in public, and I might drop the word around some white folks, and it's an immediate uncomfortable situation for a lot of folks, depending on where it's said, no matter what the context of it is. So it is one of those words. Janine brought up a very good point. If it's something that you're not comfortable saying, like let's say in church or around older folks, around some of your elders, right? If you have those sort of feelings in your spirit, then that's your spirit telling you that something's not all the way right with this. So I think I can kind of I'm almost like Bert, where I'm kind of on a straddling the fence, where I can kind of see both sides. But I think that as we get older, those of us that have our heads on straight, we do tend to use that word a lot less and in a lot less lot less spaces than we did when we were younger. And I think that is something that maybe we should be promoting amongst the youth. So that's my 2 cents. If anybody else wants to give some feedback on it.
My bad. I got a call, but look, Bernie Mac. Said, don't be afraid to use the word motherfucker. There's so many ways that you can use it.
It's a
You know what I
it's a
mean? Like,
person, place, a thing. It's a noun.
it's a noun. You see what I'm saying? So, and I'm definitely, especially with that quote. You know what I mean? It's hard to say I'm gonna kill my brother. You know what I mean? Versus I'm about to kill this nigga. You know what I mean? And when I'm upset, if he a bitch ass nigga, that's what I'm gonna say. Uh, so I'm definitely understanding where y'all coming from. I can't I can't sit here and say that, you know what I mean, that I would stop using it. But I mean, y'all points are just so much, so valid. I can't argue it.
I appreciate hearing that. But for those that, well, two things. Janine, you started by saying, in terms of where that word was used in public versus being at home. Holly, you hit on it too. Something that we do is code switching. We got our customer service voices and we got our house voices. So,
And I was just about to mention that, man. Go ahead, take it home.
I will say this. Um, Gosh, like I have been told I talk white my entire life. I'm talking about growing up, because my mom wouldn't have me speak any other way at home. Like, so I've always spoken the way I spoke. Like, I can use slang, but, you know, I'm using the correct terms. I'm using it the right ways just because I was raised that way. So I would say, in terms of me being who I am wherever I go, it's easier. Just that's just how I was brought up. Versus Janine, where you say, you got four boys, and that term niggas being used constantly by your boys, and they doing what they comfortable with outside the house. Now it's like, oh shit, like hold up, there's white folks around. So that's something to think about. But with that code switching, and that's something we've done to survive. But also to those with kids, boys or girls, but I'll say leaning towards boys more. When you're raising your child, are you trying to raise a real nigga, or are you trying to raise something else?
The code switching brings an interesting dynamic, man, because there's two different ways that we can look at that, right? Like you said, it's something that we've had to do to survive. We all got our professional voice. We know how to act in public. We know how to act in certain professional spaces. Just even the way that we're discussing, on this platform right now. A lot of you brothers, I know outside of this, right? And when we not on these platforms where we got to behave ourselves, man, we talk to each other in a lot of different slang is just floating around the room, right? So we do a lot of code switching. There's two different ways that we can look at that. We can look at it as something that is embedded in us for survival, but we can also look at it as trauma, right? Because it's like we can't be ourselves around those who don't look like us, right? So there's two different ways that we can kind of look at the code switching, and is that something that we should be getting away from the next generation? Because I do kind of see that more with the youth, where they're kind of forcing these outside coaches to accept us for who we are, the way that we are, right? So the code switching is an interesting dynamic. So I'd like to get some feedback on that.
I agree. Because code switching is for real truth. You one way, like they say, what you do in the dark comes to the light, or what you do in the light. If you can't do it in the light, don't do it in the dark. And that's something that a lot of people do, because you can be one way, one place, and somewhere different. Because the craziest part, about my children is they're not in the street. They don't even go out at night. All of them are adults. They know nothing about the street. But they use that word so commonly because it's a common word that's used. And the crazy part is, when I addressed it to my son, the first thing he said was, "What did I say?" He was not even aware he had even used the word, because it was so common. But me, being older, I'm good at switching the code because I can be on that, customer service, and I can switch it and be on something different. But that was just a normal word, for them. And now I'm like, okay, I've allowed this. Now they're in a different situation, don't know nothing about the street, and it caught me, and he didn't even realize he had even said the word because it was such a common word that they use. So yeah, I agree with the comment wholeheartedly.
Man, I ain't gonna lie. My mama was the queen of code switching. Like I didn't even know what a telephone voice was till dealing with my mom's house. She would talk to her sister or my uncle, versus the bill collector. She well, no bill collector because hell, they didn't have no bill paid not paid. But uh, the thing is like it's we all have that. I guess you could say that game face, that we have to put on. You know what I mean? But is that naturally how you are? Like I've been in customer service for quite some time when it comes to call centers, and I do not put on a telephone voice. I used to, but it's got tiresome. And you after a while you start to be like, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm gonna give you the real. So I started being real about it all the way through. And come to find out, it comes out naturally that I have a very, unique way to do it and get it to make it sound like, okay, well, this person is a really nice person, even if I'm mad. But the whole thing is when it comes to all that, we all put our game face on. But when it comes to our loved ones, we are able to loose and be relaxed. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that.
Do you think it's human nature? Do you think it's something that's only going on in our communities, or do you think it's more human nature? Because when we can let our hair down and kick our feet up, when we are around our people and we are more comfortable, we may act or speak in a way that we won't around the public. So do you think that that's something that's just in our culture? Because I've always considered code switch as something that we do that other cultures
No,
don't have to do.
no. Let me
Other
explain.
countries do it coming into America.
When I was in the Marine Corps, hey, we had behavior that supposed to be like a Marine, and then we had jarhead behavior. And let me tell you, them white boys is just as dirty. You see what I'm saying? They don't have
Yeah.
the jolly be gosh attitude either when they got their hair down too. So it's not. I find it seemed it would be that way because that's how we grew up. But after dealing with so many different races, growing up, in the military, and some of these brothers I know they mamas. You know what I mean? So it's it's not just a cultural thing. It's just a human nature thing.
Yeah. Can I ask a question that's kind of along the lines of code switching? Is that okay, y'all?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I know when we commonly say code switching, we mean like words or how you talk or how you might phrase things. But there is like a different way to think about code switching in terms of how you behave, what you're willing to accept, really just the standards that you uphold. So, in I think it might have been episode 2, Devin actually was talking about how she has always raised her sons to, take pride in being a black man, to really, stand up for themselves and have standards. But then as soon as police are around, she takes a different tone. And she was just talking about how that in a way is kind of like code switching, and it's hard to navigate that. Like, how do you raise a young black man to be confident, but then also on the other side tell him, well, you got to fear for your life in these instances. So I'm just kind of like wanting to bring up that perspective for the brothers in the room or the mothers who are raising young men. Like, how do we think about that when it relates to code switching?
So for me, uh, fear never, like, I don't even think about fear. Like I want my kids to live unapologetically wherever they go, and not feel the need to code switch to be safe. Um, and just in terms of teaching that, it's just through example. I mean, they see how I am in every situation. I'm the same person wherever I go. Uh, do I rub people the wrong way? Absolutely. Do I give a fuck? No. Um, excuse my language, but that just from my end, fear won't play a part in how they act. It's just more of a respect where you are thing. Understand, being able to read the room. I think is bigger for me.
I do want to challenge that a bit. So, um, I don't have kids at this point, but I am very, very much involved in our culture. And are we not teaching? Are you guys not teaching your kids that we live in a different America? That black people and white people live in two different Americas? Isn't that kind of related to code switching and having to know who you're around at certain times? Are we not still teaching our young folks that we live in two different Americas?
I do. I mean,
I don't. I ain't gonna lie to you. Nope. All I talk tell my kids about what's good and what's evil.
Hmm.
I personally do. I mean, I talk about like systemic racism. I talk about like the idea of individual racism, and I mean, I teach what my grandmother taught me. I remember being a kid and her watching. I don't know if you remember the Eye on the Prize. It used to come on like on public TV back in the day, um, talking about the civil rights movement. So I mean, I taught my daughter about her namesake, and I taught her about like how what we had to do to get free. I want them to know that, but I teach them in an age appropriate way. I mean, because I think I don't want them to get blindsided by it and like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Nah, because I do a lot of folks who look like me in college that were blindsided by the fact that racism still exists. They're like, I thought we was equal. No, there's a reason why you got redlined out of your hood. There's a reason why our housing prices are different. There's a reason why when I went to go buy my first home, why my realtor, who got fired immediately, was steering us toward like these areas of the town that we. I'll be there in just a second. There's a reason why our realtor was steering us toward certain areas of the town, even though we were overqualified for that particular space, because they wanted to steer us in the area that was redlined. So again, it's that scenario. I want them to understand. I think context again, like if you give someone context, the emotions, the thoughts, and the feelings actually make a bit more sense. It doesn't necessarily change how we react to it, but it does give us more options and choices than just saying like there's only one America with choose between good and evil. Not throw you under the bus, D, but like that's I think that dynamic is what allows us to make few like fair choices about like how we go about moving through the world, whether we code switch or whether we don't. I mean, I'm luckily in a privileged position where I can speak to y'all the same way I speak like when I'm in session. Like I don't have to change how I approach things necessarily. I can still speak in the way I normally speak. I don't have a counselor voice. This is exactly how I'm speaking to y'all. So like I think that because in that it's freedom. You don't have to change that scenario. But I understand that I'm in a privileged position, and I don't. There's some folks who have to put on that customer service voice. They have to put on their "Hi, how you doing?" kind of voice. You know, so it's a shitty spot to be in.
Agreed with that one for sure. For sure, it's definitely, man. It's a slippery slope. Um, but again, man, I just go back to the complexities, man. And I think about our youth. I think about how much we've grown as individuals into a manhood, into a womanhood. All of the things that we may have misinterpreted at younger ages, man. Like there's so much complexity to our culture, man. And so, these are all great talking points, man. The dialogue is definitely necessary. But there's such a complexity to all of this, man, that is tough to really pick a side for me.
It's crazy because I took my son to watch the movie Teal, and like as most people know, like I really talk about how like I engage in conversation with my kids, and after that, us watching that movie, I had my son give me
examples of what that looks like in today's age versus like how she literally kept trying to sit down and talk to her son and warn him on how to move in another area. And I as a mother, I mean, I think I'm always going to come from a more emotional place than men. So I was really emotional like about that movie. Like, yeah, I'm going to always tell my son, and maybe it's not to instill fear, but it is definitely to create awareness, because at the end of the day, we live in a world of two different understandings, good and evil, um, white and black. I even, try to like equip him with the things that I didn't have, like a understanding of credit, understanding of financial literacy. Like as I'm learning at 37, I'm trying to get my 15-year old, I'm trying to get my 11 and my 6-year old to understand, so that they don't have to wait until they're adults to start learning the things that they should be learning now. So I'm a big advocate for making sure that as we're learning, we're including our kids in that process so that they can learn with us.
Absolutely right on. Brother Marcus, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, there are several things. As a young parent, I still consider myself as a young parent. I have a 22-year-old. Um, I don't teach out of fear, but I teach out of survival for them. We live in an area to where it is diverse. That's something that I desired because I wanted my children to be able to adapt and be able to deal with whoever, regardless of where they were. And because I didn't have that, I had that experience, but that was one of the things that kind of opened my eyes. That man, I want my children to be able to deal wherever, and if they need to, be able to code switch. I think that's just a part of survival. Um, and so I think it's important. We teach out of love, not out of fear, even though there may be emotions tied to it at some point. Um, I think it's one of those things where you just have to kind of take everything into consideration. If you're not teaching the different standards that they are and that we are different, I believe we're just setting our children up for failure, to be able to be, blindsided. And so it's just one of those things. Is it fair? No. Is it reasonable? Yeah, because you want to see your kid at home at night. You want to see your kids succeed. So why not show them? Now they get to they have to make their own decisions and everything else. But at the same point in time, at least they can kind of see the ropes there, if you will. And so I try to do that without forcing my mindset on them, because it's a lot different now, with us growing up versus our kids growing up. They have a lot more accessible to them. And so we have to be able to try to teach them without forcing our thought process, our religions, and everything else on them, because they still have that choice to be able to make.
I want to piggyback off of that, because when it comes to raising our children, especially when they're boys in this world that we're dealing with right now, I think about more so. I would say I don't teach my kids to code switch, but I do teach them in that situation when it comes to um their safety. I try to teach my boys how to react from a logical perspective versus an emotional perspective, because a lot of times when you want to, let's say for instance the police, okay, and if they do something wrong, it's normal. A lot of people, not all, but they lose their lives from an emotional reaction that the police was wrong, or what did I do? And because it's not fair. And so that those emotions come in and we get confrontational. But at the same time, sometimes in that instance, well, in the instance, the police is the authority. So if you're making an emotional reaction to someone in authority with a gun, was it worth it versus logically knowing, okay, their perspective was off, but do you have to challenge it to the degree where it gets out of control versus making a logical decision that, okay, this person authority, they got a gun, it don't take much for them to want to shoot me, Can I just follow what they tell me to do so I can keep it moving and I can be alive to think about would it really have been worth me getting emotional and losing my life? So it's about making logical decisions in the moment versus emotional decisions. And that's the same thing I teach my children when they're dealing with their girlfriends. Because one of my oldest son, he's pretty hot-headed. And when your emotions get out of control, you're actually a puppet. You're being controlled by someone else, and you're not logically thinking that could get you in trouble. Because I tell them all the time, you put your hands on her, if the police show up, you're going to be seen for what you did. They're not going to ask, what did she say to you? What did she call you that made you react? No, it's consequences for your reaction, regardless if that person triggered your emotions. So you have to learn how to deal with things more logical than emotional versus, kind of calling certain situations code switching. So that's how I try to teach them, you got to do what you got to do, but always act in a logical perspective. Think it through before your emotions kick in and you start saying and doing things that just really didn't make sense, because you put yourself in a battle that, the chances of winning are pretty low. So
Yo, I wanted to add on to that, to the it's kind of shifting to where logic versus emotions. I think us maybe wanting to get rid of code switching as a whole, in my opinion, is somewhat of an emotional response, because logically speaking, having a general way of speaking and a casual way of speaking, or you know speaking one way in certain one area and versus another, there is logic to that. I'll give an example. When I was in college down in Langston, there was a situation. I had a homeboy who was from the Bay, and he was getting into it with this dude that was from Dallas. And now we in Langston, Oklahoma. Everybody away from home. Nobody is at home. And so what they were getting into it, and having words. And but basically the short version of the story is that one guy said, "All right, man, fuck all this, nigga. Let's get the burners and let's get at it." So they went and parted ways, and I'm confused. I'm like, I've never heard the term burners in my life. But old guy from Dallas, he went in his dorm room. He came out with like some motorcycle gloves or whatever, just like some gloves on. He was like, "All right, bro, I got my burners. Tell your boy to come outside." And I'm like, "All right." So I go up to the dorm room where my boy is at. This man punched a hole in the wall where he hit a gun, and he grabbed his gun, getting ready to go outside and shoot these niggas. And so immediately I'm thinking, oh, you two niggas is not on the same page at all. So I'm trying to diffuse the situation, and then it ended up getting diffused and all of that. But literally, because they were both speaking their casual way of speaking, there was literally two people on two drastically different wavelengths. So I think the concept of having a general speech or a general way to talk when you're in certain environments and in certain areas, just to make sure you're understood, make sure messages get conveyed correctly, make sure you're not sending somebody off the deep end. You know, you, um, yeah, having a general way of speaking, there's nothing wrong with that concept whatsoever. I think it's more so in how it applied. Like, are you trying to speak well, or speak a certain way so you can get a job? Hey, you might want to do that so you can get that job. Now, once you get in there and slowly, start letting that customer service or whatever speak go as time goes on, have at it. But as far as just getting rid of changing the way you speak based on your environment or based on your audience, I think we should still, logically speaking, we should still hold on to that.
Man, I'm
Uh,
sorry, man. I'm just going back to your story, man. Listen, when I hear the word burner, I think immediately somebody going to get a gun, and so I'm over here. I had to put myself on mute, bro, because I was cracking up when you said the brother from Dallas when he got when he got some motorcycle gloves. Because now, you know what I'm saying, I got to talk to my brother Marcus, brother Pastor. Please explain to us how is burners, you know what I'm saying, significant to motorcycle gloves? Like I'm confused about the slang, man. Like, but that's an interesting point though, G Don. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, I got a code switch. That ain't all NIs. No, that ain't that ain't all of us, Doc. That's that that ain't all of us now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
wanted. Oh,
literally though,
go
in that situation, one person perceived it as okay, we about to, and the way he perceived it, we about to have an honorable fight, like one on one. We ain't trying to kill each other, but we finna throw hands and and have it be that. And then the other person took it as a threat on to his life, which is a totally different scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Language is complex like that though, man. Some slang is regional. There's certain slang terms that we would use in one area that we wouldn't use, that other areas they use in a different manner. But then it's also generational, man. Like, some of the young folks, it happens with every generation. We have slang terms that are created that, older folks would use in a different manner. So it's just a lot of complexity to it, man. I keep going back to that, man. Like how do we expect the youth to adapt and to get a hold on all of these things when it's so complex?
I wanted to chime in real quick because I just feel like it would be remiss for me not to mention this, having a whole nonprofit that focuses on men's mental health. But I keep hearing the term logic and emotion. And I think one of the ways to help our young boys grow into men is to help them understand and tap into their emotional understanding. Like we have a primary level and a secondary level of our emotions, and for the most part, as a woman, we see men demonstrate anger, fear, and 50-50 love based on whatever they received from a child. And I really feel like understanding your emotional state will change the trajectory of our community for men in a whole. Understanding that going to therapy doesn't make you look weak, but it indeed makes you strong. Like all of those things I haven't heard spoken on, but I keep hearing the term logic versus emotional state. And I really think once you understand your emotions, and I know Miss Janine had mentioned the word trigger, like we just talked about that on one of our episodes. Like you're triggered based on a past trauma, and that comes with an emotional understanding. Like, why am I feeling this way? Why, like understanding and being okay with feeling that way. And once I think our young boys are able to actually move in that confidently and in a healthy manner, that will just open up doors to that part of our men, in my opinion.
Can't argue with
Devin, I'm
that.
so glad you made that point because I use the word trigger specifically because my son he had to go through therapy because when he was 13, his father physically abused him like he was a dude in the street, okay? And he was just 13 years old, and it gave him PTSD, very angry, different things like that. And how he reacts to things has a lot to do with mental health. And I'm so glad you brought that up. But that's most definitely why I use that word, because anything triggers him and he makes those emotional decisions. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I think that one of the keys to becoming emotionally intelligent amongst man is for us to dispel a lot of the myths around the concept of emotion. For us as man, and we talked about this in our first episode. Emotion is looked at as a bad thing. It's a soft thing. It's something that men are not supposed to have. It's something that we all kind of grew up with that mindset. And as I got older, I realized that emotions are part of being human, right? Even anger and aggression, the way that we are taught to be hard, those are emotional reactions, right? Everything that we do as emotion as humans contains some level of emotion. Even nonchalant, being unbothered, is a feeling. It's an emotion. So I think that dispelling the myth of what emotions truly are. You know, we all have emotions. The way that we react, the way that we feel as human beings, period. We're always in our feelings. We're always being emotional. We have to dispel that whole concept that emotions are only in reference to soft emotions or kind natured emotions. Nah, emotions are no matter what. For every reaction there's an opposite reaction, and those are all on the emotional spectrum. So I think that that's key to kind of hand it down to our youth. We got to dispel what the whole concept of being in your feelings and being in your emotions really is, because we always in our feelings and in our emotions. Anybody else want to chime in? Any more comments? Great dialogue tonight, folks. I see GT just joined us. What's going on with your brother? Game Tight, good to see you back with us.
What's going on, family? How's everybody doing? Just,
Man,
I'm a little late to the party, but definitely had to stop in. Just getting back into the swing of things.
yeah, man. Appreciate you, man, joining in, man. We definitely missed your presence. And all of our thoughts and prayers have been with you and the family. So definitely good to hear your voice, brother.
Appreciate it, appreciate it. Likewise.
For sure, for sure. Well, listen, man. I'm looking at the time, man. We've been going for a little over an hour now, man, and I definitely appreciate all of the commentary, all of the feedback from everybody. Appreciate everybody joining us tonight. I do want to take a couple of seconds to give flowers and a round of applause to Miss Devon for publishing her first book. So if you haven't heard about that, she is a life coach, certified life coach, and she's the founder of Lifted KC. She mentioned that mental health organization that is generated towards mental health for Black men. She has published a book with Angela Marie Publishing. It'll be due for release here in a couple of weeks. So shout out to her for that. It's called Sit in Your Shit. It's a 30-day guided journal for processing a crisis. So she not only talks the talk, she walks the walk, and and I'm super excited about the release of that. So everybody, give her a round of applause and give her some kudos for that. Devin, did you want to speak? Did you want to speak on
Devin, did you
your
want to speak? Did you
wonderful
want to speak on your wonderful
accomplishment?
accomplishment?
Okay, I think Devin might be preoccupied. But listen, y'all. If y'all don't have anything else,
I
man,
think
I
my
definitely
AirPod
appreciate
popped on. I'm
Devin. You back?
sorry.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Devin. Give us a few words.
Okay, I didn't hear what you last said. My phone made it like my AirPod was
I
on when
was
it wasn't.
actually
So,
letting the room know I was giving you kudos and a round of applause for publishing your first book, and I just wanted to give you a couple of seconds to talk about the journal.
oh, okay. Thanks, brother. Okay. Look, listen, I have not yet I don't think it's reality yet. I think it'll actually hit when we actually do the release. So for anybody that's in Kansas City, I would love to see you guys there. It is a free event. One thing that I did want to say that I've kind of been just saying on any platform that I've been given the opportunity, I was very intentional with ensuring that this journal was for both men and women. I believe wholeheartedly that we both experience trauma as man, as woman, and because my heart is geared to men in this current season of my life and men healing, I definitely want to see some of my brothers out there. But the journal is basically a testimony of trauma that I've experienced and what it took to actually walk through that process. Typically, I'm a go getter. Like I'm always moving, always grooving, finding something to have my hand in. So most of the time, even growing up, when trauma happened, I just got busy. And I didn't realize how that was going to have a major effect on me in my adult life. So, with processing through my recent divorce, I literally had to sit in my shit. Like, I literally had to process uh, what happened. I had to look inward, which is something that a lot of us don't do. Like, even as a culture, we're quick to point blame, and sometimes blame is definitely needed. But a lot of times we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing to create and to continue in the cycles that we're in? And that was like the hardest pill for me to swallow. Just acknowledging my fault in my marriage failing. I'm 37 and that was my second divorce, so I'm really beating myself up like, come on, dog. Like, you young and you done been married and divorced twice. So actually having to process through all of that opened up a new reality for me. It created a space of internal healing where I realized I needed to do some work within myself to be a better me before I could be better for anybody else. So, with all that in mind, I wanted other people to experience that. And because the situation that happened, I was miles away. I had just relocated to Florida. So, I was miles away from all of my family and friends in Kansas City, and I had nobody to walk through that with. So this journal was created for those times where you're not in a place of vulnerability where you want to tell your business, because let's keep it real, even friends and family, they can be a good listening ear and a running mouth. So this journal was basically me allowing myself into your home, in your space, to create the space for you to process through trauma. So I don't know how Holly wants to do it. As much as I like to give myself kudos because this was a task for me, I want to also always acknowledge Rodney and Angela Marie Publishing for even allowing the space to be vulnerable with my words to create this project. The process of publishing this journal was seamless working with them. I'd known how the Holly from his trolling on social media, but actually getting to know him and Princess on a deeper level when it comes to mental health, when it comes to his passion for publishing and what he wants to do with the community. I encourage anybody that's working on a written project of any sort to reach out to them. But again, this is for men and women, and I hope that my sisters and my brothers can come out and support. If you can't be there in the flesh, definitely order the book and make sure that you apply it to your life. So that's my 20,000 minutes of spiel, but thanks for the platform.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. So she is doing the book release event on the 19th in Kansas City. I think we posted the link in the chat for you to get your free tickets reserved. So make sure you come out and support. And if you're not able to make it, like she said, we do have the link available for you to be able to order the book. So definitely, Devin, I want to give you your flowers, give you your shout outs. Anytime that I got a microphone, I'm going to continue to do that so that we can promote those book sales, of course. But I also want to give you your kudos and your flowers for taking that step and doing this. It was a lot of work, so I definitely commend you for being ready to jump in the trenches with us and get this project done. So definitely, man, appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing what it does for the community
Thank you, bro.
for sure.
Thank you, Princess. I ain't leaving you out either.
That's right. That's right. She's the one that makes a lot of this happen. In a lot of different ways, and we a good team, and we work well together. When we work well together, but I hope we heal. So definitely, much love to Princess, much love to Devin, Angela Marie Publishing, much love to all of y'all, man. I appreciate everybody tapping in with us. We will have another episode airing of the Blacked Out Couch podcast next Thursday. This will be featuring the sisters, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out there because I'm super excited to see the feedback and the reaction to this. So the topic of their next episode is submissiveness. For any brothers, any sisters out there that have an opinion or a point of view on the whole concept of submissiveness, the sisters actually have an episode touching on that that'll be airing next Thursday on our YouTube, Spotify, and all of the podcast streaming apps. So I'm super excited. Hopefully everybody tunes in. If y'all don't have anything else, everybody enjoy the rest of their night and have a very safe weekend. And we'll holler at y'all next time. Appreciate y'all for joining. Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Right on. Right on.
Have a good evening, everybody. This was amazing.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. Good evening.